With less than a month remaining for the first Republican primary debate, six Republicans have qualified for the first debate. One of the candidates is Ron De Santis, the famous Florida governor, who is touted to be the main challenger to former President Donald Trump in his race to capture the Republican nomination. However, there have been lots of questions being raised about his electability, likeness, and ability to lead the country. I sat down with Ankur to discuss where Ron DeSantis stands and what are the things that separate him from the rest of the Republican lot. I am Mugdha, and you're listening to the News Park. Hi, Ankur, how are you?
I'm good, Mugdha. How are you?
Good as well. So, Ankur, today we are going to talk about Ron DeSantis. I mean, it is a big question. Is Ron DeSantis really Donald Trump's leading challenger for the GOP nomination? What do you think about it?
Currently, if you look at the polls, Mugdha, so yes,
Mm-hmm.
he is on the second place, but will he
Yeah.
maintain that second place? Going by the polls, it's a difficult thing to say because
Why is
his
that?
poll numbers has been consistently declining. When he
Mm-hmm.
joined the race, it was quite high, like high in 40s and stuff, but now he stands at around 19% and way behind Donald Trump. So yeah, it's gonna be a interesting watch when the debate happens because that's when we'll get a proper idea who's at what level.
Okay, so when I think about Ron DeSantis, I'm not sure what he stands for. For instance, I see Trump running against the system and swearing to uproot it. But what is it that DeSantis stands for?
That's a very good question. So to be honest, I think he's also himself trying to figure that out uh, because he doesn't have many things to differentiate himself from the rest of the Republican lot. But I think going by his recent interviews and his appearances, I think he's trying to talk more against the woke culture or the liberal culture there is.
And
And
what do you mean by the woke culture?
so wokeness is like being alert or attentive about, the discriminatory behavior that one faces. And
Mhm.
I think this term woke has been, used by Republicans as a demeaning term towards Democrats. And in a sense that they say that Democrats are too liberal, whether it's related to LGBTQ rights, whether it's, gender fluidity or abortion or stuff like that. So they say that they are too woke, to kind of it's kind of an
Yeah,
insult towards.
yes, and I've heard DeSantis saying, taking a stand against what he views
Mhm.
as the cancel culture.
Exactly.
And, he's saying that it is suppressing free speech in the name of political correctness.
Right. So I think he wants to use that as his agenda
Okay.
while running for the president.
Okay. Okay, so that is something that he stands for. But that is not something concrete. What I feel is like, for the conservative voters out there, how will they differentiate between Trump and DeSantis? Like, I feel like, he has the same policies as Trump. Do you think there's something unique that he stands for? Like, how would the voters vote for him?
Right. So if you talk about the Republican base, Mugdha, there's within the Republican base, there's another sub base, if I may say, for the Trump or MAGA base, who are
Okay.
hardcore Trumpers, right? In 2020 election, I think Republicans who didn't even like Trump that much ended up voting for him because there was no alternative. They didn't want to vote for Joe Biden, so the only
Yeah.
option left was Donald Trump. But then if Ron DeSantis plays his cards right, he can provide alternative to those Republican voters who do not like Trump but align themselves as Republicans.
But I guess things are not turning the way he wants. I mean, his rating is going down, and I think his vote percentage is being given to Trump.
Yeah, obviously, if someone loses a percentage, other candidate gains that, right? And it's still too early to call that because we haven't even had the first debate yet, right? So
Yeah,
once that happens and we see how the candidates are behaving, how well they are able to articulate their points in front of each other, probably he'll gain the momentum back. I mean, that's what every candidate wants, right? They don't
yeah.
want their momentum to decrease. They want it to increase as the D-Day comes closer.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, for sure, there's a lot of time, and things might change. But then I know that conservative voters also, would look forward to the policies that DeSantis has to offer. So, can you tell me something about his budgeting policies or he's also pro-life, So, can you elaborate more on that for our
Yeah,
listeners?
I think he aligns perfectly with the Republican lines. He is a pro-life, and I think in a recent interview with Jack Tapper, he said that he would encourage banning abortion, and but how, like, what is the duration for that? He didn't answer that question. And of course, he feels that owning a gun is a right for every American. Uh,
Yes.
and yeah, so rest of the things he perfectly aligns with, as I said, as the rest of the Republicans.
He
But
also makes those statements, right? Which gives him publicity. Like he's always in the news. He fights with the press. He's fighting with Disney, and obviously he won in Florida with a large margin. So from the Disney incident, like, can you explain what happened in that? I mean, and how did he gain so much publicity from that?
right, first of all, he doesn't fight with press, but he fights with the what he calls liberal media press. So
Okay.
because I mean, that's for the both sides, right? Even Joe Biden doesn't like Fox News.
Yes.
But apart from that, the policies and stuff, yeah. And the fight with Disney was an interesting one because Disney has been given a special status in Florida, where they have their own district where Disney makes the rules and regulations for. So considering the fact that Disney employs 75,000 people in Florida, and they are highest
Highest
taxpayer
taxpayer in
corporation
Florida.
in
Yes.
Florida, I don't think so. It was a right decision for Ron DeSantis to get in a fight with them. Uh, but then, you
But then
know,
I think it kind of worked in his favor because, when I talk to people, this is how they know him. They say that, he's the guy who fought with Disney.
yeah. I mean, for sure, it was good for him, for good for his publicity. But then Disney ended up canceling a $1 billion investment in Florida after that. So
Yeah.
I don't know whether, I mean, it was not definitely good for the voters and the people of Florida, right? But whether the Republican voters will see that or whether they'll still ignore that and just consider all the other factors, that's we'll have to see. But then
Okay.
if if you look in detail, I don't think so that fight went into his favor. He ended up losing a lot of investments from Disney.
Hmm. No, that's right. Yeah, I did hear about that. And yeah, people were not happy because, they were directly impacted because of,
Mhm.
job loss, or
Mhm.
job creation that might
Exactly.
have had happened, if he would
Mhm.
not have come on in the way. But okay, Ankur, so moving on, like, his voters say that Ron DeSantis is absolutely, massively intelligent. He is a great debater, and Trump seems to avoid him during debates because I feel Trump also knows somewhere that he's good in what he does, no matter what he does. So, what do you think he's going to be a strong candidate in the first debates that we're going to see soon?
That I've also heard that people think that he's very intelligent, and if you look at his interviews, he is very articulate. He does present his policies in details and answers all the questions. But
Hmm.
then, if you look back in 2016 election, that's what happened when Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were the
Yes.
nominees. everyone said that Hillary is the most qualified person to be ever running for president, and she used to detail out her policies. But then Donald Trump came and with his one-liners and quips, and then ended up winning the debates, right? So you never know what's going to happen. Maybe Ron DeSantis does explain all the policies in detail, but then if Trump somehow overpowers him, and we've seen that before, that has happened. So he cannot do much about it. But the way he handles Trump in the first debate will actually set the bar. And then, people would be able to align themselves whether they really would want to vote for Ron DeSantis or they want to stick with Trump.
Yes. Okay, makes sense. Also, I know I read that he was deployed in Iraq, for some time, and he speaks a lot about military. In fact, he was also a legal advisor to SEAL Team 1 in the United States. So, do you think like he uses military as a selling point for these elections, or does he really have a good, policy in place for military defense? What do you think about that?
I mean, of course, he's a veteran and he does try to capture those veteran votes. If you look at his interviews and rallies and stuff, he does talk about that probably he's one of the first people to run for president since 1988, if I'm not wrong, who has actively served in a war.
Yes, but has he made any effective changes?
He does have some policies, but those policies are about making the recruitment process in military more strict. He said that he's gonna include the wokeness factor and probably make it more strict about who can enter the military and who cannot. He's even planning to ban transgender people to serve in military. He also said that he's going to stop the a facility provided by military for its people to get an abortion overseas. He says that if US taxpayers are paying for the military, why would the people in military get the benefit of going out of state and getting an abortion? It doesn't align with his policy. So he did say that he's going to make changes if he is elected as the president.
Okay. So do you feel like more points are in his favor, or things are against him?
Well, one thing that he might have in his favor is his age, because there have been
This man is more than 30 years younger than both Biden and Trump.
Right. So there have been a lot of questions raised about Biden's age and Trump's age, and if elected, I mean, Biden would be 84, I think, by the next term, and then Trump is only a couple of years younger than Joe Biden. So
yeah, he's fairly younger than both.
right.
And I think that's going to appeal to the young conservative voters out there.
Exactly. So the young Republicans might see him as an alternative instead of, if they're worried about the age factor. So that's one thing. And then he is trying to present Florida as a model state. He does say that, people are happy here. There's less taxes for the corporation.
Well, they seem to be, because he did win with a large majority, and that's, I guess he was re-elected last year. So, I mean, don't you think that's true?
Yeah. I mean, if it works for Florida, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work at the national level as well, right? So, but he is trying to, cash in on that success that he has had with Florida. So he does have executive experience, unlike Trump, who didn't have any experience in politics or public service. So that makes him a little bit different. But then Trump can also say that he has been a president for 4 years, so now he has experience. So but then, these are some of the points that he has talked about, these points in interviews. But then as the time comes closer for the debate, let's see what he comes up with.
Well, he seems to be in the news all the time. Like, I just read today that he was involved in a car crash.
Yes, he was involved in a car crash in Tennessee. But then there was an official statement, released that he and his teammates or campaign mates are all fine. But I mean,
but that was a genuine one. So that's a genuine news.
Yeah, exactly. But then there was also news today that, he has fired around 38 people from his campaign. The reason for that, it was not given out. And also he has already spent 40% of his money for the campaign. So he collected around $20 million. And in the six-week period since he's been campaigning, he has already spent $8 million. So that's something to be concerned about.
Yeah, that might be concerning, or it might also mean that he's actually putting a lot of, he's putting everything at stake.
Yeah, maybe. But then the main thing is people are looking forward to the first debate, Republican primary debate, where 6 candidates, as you said, are eligible, and they want
Yeah.
to see how they interact with each other. Uh, that will give them a better idea.
I'm actually looking forward to, DeSantis versus Trump, because I
Yeah,
feel those two are striking out the most.
right.
Even when you said that DeSantis is, losing some votes and it might
Mhm.
be going to Trump, but I feel like still he is strong, and there's that he'll be somebody, to look out for.
Exactly, definitely. That's the
Yes.
thing.
Thank you so much, Ankur, for this insightful interview. I guess our listeners had a great time. And yes, let's look forward to it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mugdha. It was a great experience talking to you about this. Thank you.
My pleasure. With the primary race heating up, it's interesting to see how Ron De Santis will perform in the upcoming debate. Whether his poll numbers increase or continue to decline steadily, it will be an interesting thing to watch out. There's no question that DeSantis does prove to be a good alternate to Trump on certain parameters. But does the Republicans in the US feel the same? We will get an idea about that starting next month. Thank you for listening. See you next time.